Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some strawberry rhubarb jam. I mentioned in reply to some comments on my last video that I was going to make some jam, and a couple of people asked for a video of that, so I thought, well, I'll do that now. It's not a difficult recipe and it's cooked on the stove top. You just need some strawberries, some rhubarb, some sugar, and then you need a setting agent, and I'm using a combination of lemon juice, which will help with the pectin. It helps draw out the pectin, and some pectin powder. Now in different countries the pectin powder may be slightly different, and it may be you may need a greater or a lesser volume of that powder depending on how that powder is made up. But in the UK, 1/8 gram sachet of powder, which is probably about a tablespoon of powder, is enough to set 1 kilogram of fruit and 1 kilogram of sugar, basically. So that's what I'm going to use. So I'll go on to the ingredients. So for the ingredients, I have 500 grams, which is 1.1 pounds of strawberries, which I have cut in half, and some I've cut in quarters. And where the top, after I'd cut the top off, where the hull was a little bit tough, I've cut that out as well. I have another 500 grams, 1.1 pounds of rhubarb, which I have chopped into pieces like that. I have 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds of granulated sugar. I have the juice from 1 lemon, which in my case is 55 millilitres, which is 3 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. And I have 1 packet, 8 grams of pectin. I understand, or I think that in other countries pectin may come in different size packets, and it may have a different strength, I don't know. But in the UK, 1 8 gram packet is enough to make jam of this quantity. So the first thing I'm going to do is to mix some of the sugar with the strawberries and the rhubarb, and just get that softening slightly. So into a large pot I'm going to put my strawberries, and I'm going to sprinkle over some sugar, just like that. And then I'll put the rhubarb in as well and sprinkle some more sugar. So I've used maybe a half a cup of sugar, and I'm going to put that onto the heat and soften that. But before I do that, I'm simply going to take my sugar, the remainder of the sugar, and put my pectin in, and I'm going to stir that around to get that mixed through, and that will then be ready for when I need it later. So I'm going to put the rhubarb, the strawberries, and that little bit of sugar on a low heat, and I'm just going to heat that gently until the fruits begin to soften and release a little bit of liquid. So as you can see, that has now softened the fruit a little bit, and the juices have started to be released. So I'm going to pour in my sugar and pectin. I'm going to stir that around, and still on a low heat I'm going to dissolve that sugar. So I'm just going to heat that again on the low heat until the sugar has fully dissolved. So my sugar has dissolved nicely now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my lemon juice. I'm going to stir that around. I'm going to turn the heat up. I'm going to bring that to a boil. And once it comes to a boil, I'm going to boil it for about 15 minutes probably. But I want to boil it until I reach a temperature of 105 degrees Celsius, about 220 Fahrenheit, and that will tell me that I have reached the setting point for the jam. And as you can see, that's now beginning to boil and it's starting to foam. You will be able to scoop off some of that foam at the end if you wish to. You don't have to, you can leave it in there, it's entirely up to you. But I'm now going to boil that fiercely for about 15 minutes until it reaches that 105 degrees Celsius that I mentioned. So my jam has been boiling now for a good 15 minutes and it has reached 105 degrees Celsius. So what I've got is I have a plate here which has been in the freezer and it's very, very cold. I'm just going to take a little bit of the jam and put it onto the plate. I'm just going to leave that for a couple of minutes and then I'll test that to see if it wrinkles, and if it wrinkles that means the jam is set. So I've left my jam on the plate for a little while. I'm going to push a finger through it and as you can see it wrinkles like that and it leaves a clear pathway, which means that the jam is fully set. So that's good enough to go into my jars, but I'm actually going to leave the jam in the saucepan for 30 minutes. I've left my jam for about 25 minutes and I have my jars which are very, very hot because they're sterilized now. They've just come out of the oven and I'm going to fill them. So I have a funnel which I can put on the top of the jar and I'm just going to scoop some of the jam and pour it into the jar. Almost to the top, maybe leaving about 1/4 of an inch at the top. Just like that. I'll put that jar to one side for a moment, move this one over, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a lid which I have also sterilised, place that on the jar and put the band on like that, and I'm going to tighten it like that. Now if you don't have this sort of jar and you have a jar which you're repurposing and you've sterilised, just use the lids from those, but sterilise the lids as well, of course. So I have made about 2 2/3 jars. Now my jars are 450 millilitres, so that's 900 millilitres there and probably another 300, so about 1200 millilitres of jam. So if you were to use those jars that you buy your jam in the shops, which tend to be 300 to 400 grams, I think that would fill 4 of those jars. So It's actually a very simple process. I just now need to leave those to set, and as they cool down, the air which is in these two, which I've put the lids on, will be released, and it will create a seal, and the centre of this lid will pop. It will just make a popping sound, which means that it is vacuum sealed basically. So that once that is set, I'm going to have a taste of it, and for that I will actually just come back and spread some on some bread and taste it for you. I know it tastes good already because I've tasted it on that plate when we did the test, but I'll come back and show you that a bit later on. So my jam has now cooled down sufficiently, so I've made a little piece of toast and I've just spread some jam on it so that I can have a taste for you. So this is what it looks like, and it holds up quite nicely, the jam, I have to say. So I'll have a taste. Lovely. I'm getting the tartness that you get from the rhubarb in particular, but also the sweetness from those strawberries, and it has a lovely strawberry flavour to it. Very good indeed. I think this would be ideal sandwich between a cake like a Victoria sponge, but instead of using strawberry jam you could use this jam. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.